Patrick BetDavid, CEO of PHP, the face of Valuetainment, a YouTube channel with over 3 million subscribers and the top channel for entrepreneurial content. He's interviewed the likes of Kobe Bryant, Mike Tyson, Kevin Hart, and he decided to have a sit-down conversation with me, totally unscripted. This entire unedited extended interview is available on Patreon now, and you could access it for only $5 a month.
Ruslan.
I was part of this church called, when I was going to study, because I was studying that in Scientology and Mormonism. I was studying all three at the same time. And trying to find out why so many people around my community were Scientologists. I had 100 people in my sales office that were all Scientologists. I was surrounded by all the leaders that were LDS. And then it was, you know, Christianity that I'm looking at. But one of the parts, I was going to this church called Los Angeles Church of Christ. And this one guy sat down and he said, do you have a girlfriend? I said, I do. Can I meet her? Sure. So I brought her over. I said, this is my girlfriend. She's beautiful. I know. How often do you guys have sex? I said, excuse me? How often do you have sex? No joke. Yes, this is a Christian like bishop or whatever. He said, how often do you guys have sex? I said, I had sex with her before I met with you, and as soon as we finish here, we're going to have sex again. Whoa. And he says, you're going to hell. You can't do that. Whoa. I said, what do you mean I'm going to hell? He says, if you want to really, you know, do this, you can't have any sex with your girlfriend. I said, listen, man, right off the bat, you're coming to me like that. I feel uncomfortable. Anyway, a year and a half later, the senior pastor of that church came out saying we're a cult, and it shut down.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a whole, you can do the research. Yeah. Los Angeles Church of Christ cult, you'll find it. So I've had a hard experience with church, and still, rather than using that to say, I don't want to trust and I'm going to go be an atheist, I have my own kind of relationship, but it works very well for me and my family.
What made you choose, you said Scientology, Mormonism, and Christianity. What made you land at Christianity?
So for me, Mormonism, I have a lot of respect for, because I don't think any denomination is more organized and intentional and systematic than Mormonism. I don't think any one of them thinks clearly and more unified, and they duplicate better than they do. Their message is simple. Now you can debate and say, well, Book of Moroni this, and God Makers 1 and God Makers 2, and you know, did you know that Joseph Smith, Vermont, he said this and he got these things, and he walked down and they were leaving and they went to Chicago and they got kicked out of there, and finally they found a place, you know, Utah, where he can settle down. Fine, no problem. My experience with Mormons has been nothing but fantastic, but it wasn't for me, okay, because of my own research that I did. Scientology, to me, was a personal development company where the founder was able to turn it into a religion. It's like Scientology is as if Tony Robbins got the tax code to become a religion. I respect a lot of the teaching that they got, and it's very, very effective. But to me, it's not. I'm not going to relationship. That's not Scientology to me. Christianity to me just made sense, you know, as a what do you call it, non-denominational, where I'm dealing with old and new, and you know, that made the most sense to me.
Did you spend, I came through the faith, so I grew up Armenian Orthodox, going to Armenian Apostolic Church, and had some pretty rough experiences in that environment. My mother and my father split, and ended up not like believing at all as a young kid. You know, this is when this is in the mid 90s. I was telling people I am an atheist. I don't believe this stuff. Arrested at 11, you know, sexually promiscuous, like really rough childhood. And so the way I came to the faith was through the back door of apologetics. People kept sharing the gospel with me, and God would just put just bizarre situations of folks that were like, Jesus loves you, you're going to do great things for the Lord someday. And I'm like, God doesn't love me. If he even exists, I know he doesn't love me. And so I kept hearing it, but what did it for me was I went and researched the bodily resurrection of Jesus. I went and dug into the history. I dug into the claims. I dug into the church history side of things. And I read a book called The New Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Dr. Josh McDowell. Funny enough, I'm friends with his son now, Dr. Sean McDowell. So brilliant guy. And then there was another book called The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. I got Adam the book.
Is he reading it?
I don't think so, but I got it for him. So I came in similar as a skeptic. You know, I was dating a Jehovah's Witness girl, had Mormon friends, had Muslim friends. This is right after 9/11, and after looking at what I would say are the historical claims that how Jesus split history into two, how the church continued on despite massive persecution, despite schisms. That's kind of where I landed from a historical aspect, but then there was a transformational aspect. There was something that I was blind, now I see. The scales fell from my eyes. Something regenerated and gave me a new heart. Would you say, did you look at some of the historical claims and the bodily resurrection, and what do you make of all that?
Yeah, so, okay, obviously you're going to go through Mere Christianity, because that's a mandatory reading. I thought it was fascinating. You're going to go
C.S.
through
Lewis, yeah.
Cost of Discipleship, because that's the first book you're supposed to read when you choose.
I sent you Disciplines of Grace. I don't know if you got it. It's one of my favorite books.
Jared Grace. So then Lee Strobel, Case for Christ, Case for Church, Case for this, Case for Bible, all these cases that you go through from the eyes of a guy that sees it like a mathematician. So, okay, great. Then you read some of the, marketing type of stuff with Max Lucado, who does a great job.
The business side of things.
Yeah, business side of things. And then I read a book called 52 Business Lessons from the great, the good book. And it was a great business principle book and written by a guy. I love that book. I quoted that all the time. Then you go through, Rick Warren was a thing at that time. The 40 days of reading through his book, and what was it called?
Purpose-Driven Life.
I
It's one
think
of the best-selling books of all time.
All time,
Yeah.
40 plus million copies. Yes. So I went through all of that stuff, and then at the same time, I found a book with Billy Graham where he was given his argument, and you've heard this before. Either Jesus was a liar, either he's a pathological this, or he this,
Lord, liar, lunatic.
Or he's telling the truth, right? And then I'm sitting there saying, okay, so let's kind of break it down, like the areas I had the hardest time with, and but religions in the past have used the same exact thing, that a virgin mother gave birth to this kid, and if you look at India, there's this one guy that makes me skeptical. Well, if you go and look at, what makes you think a woman at that time, she can really, the world is more naive, and when Jesus is born, for a lady named Mary to say, I never had sex with anybody, but I'm pregnant. Yeah, it's a pretty very naive, people could believe it, but you couldn't get away with saying that today. Okay, so then I play the position of the other side, that there's no way you're going to be that naive to believe a woman saying, I never had sex, but I'm pregnant. Okay, let's just say that is the case. Then I play the devil's advocate, and I say, if a woman tells you that, guys, I got pregnant, but I didn't have sex with anybody. Okay, how many people make that claim? Okay, how many have made that claim? I don't think it's a big number. But here's the part. Say a woman makes that claim. 33 years later, the claim you made, the guy ends up becoming who he becomes.
Right.
What are the chances?
What are the chances?
So then you're dealing with math and odds, and it's just totally messing with me at this point.
Yeah.
And then I'm fighting. I'm kind of like the scene from that one movie, Martin Luther. I don't know if you know the Martin Luther, phenomenal movie. By the way.
The movie Luther.
The movie
great
Luther.
Movie.
Yeah, great movie. And you're seeing, he's like, why are you doing this to me? And he's like, he's getting upset. And I'm like, and watching Shadowlands. I don't know if you've seen Shadowlands, the story of C.S. Lewis, how he was going through falling in love with a woman, and God doesn't, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then finally, I'm like, you know what? I don't know. For me, I think this is where it's at, and this is where I'm kind of finding myself. And then I took the risk, and I said, this is what I'm doing.
So if you enjoyed this video and you want to check out the full version, make sure you hit the link below and sign up for our Patreon community. And you could also check out Patrick BetDavid's channel over here, and the time I appeared on their Valuetainment Money channel over here.